This just broke before we recorded like the day before. Once again, we recorded a few days prior. But Scott Whitner, who I worked with when I was at Hurricane Group, which had that website, the Loadout
Hmm.
Room, Scott is a guy who really knows guns, so I trust him on the stuff he reports on. This is from The Truth About Guns, and it's Air Force pauses use of M18 pistols after fatal discharge at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. And I'm just going to read the whole thing. It's not too
Yeah, go
long.
ahead. Yeah.
Um, a tragic incident at F.E. Warren Air Force Base has prompted the U.S. Air Force Global Strike Command, AFGSC, to suspend the use of all SIG Sauer M18 pistols. The decision follows the death of a security forces desk sergeant, reportedly killed by an unintentional discharge while the weapon remained secured inside a Safariland holster. According to a widely shared memo dated July 22nd, 2025, and confirmed by multiple media outlets, including the War Zone and Soldier of Fortune magazine, the commanding general of AFGSC issued a force-wide directive to cease all use of M18 sidearm pending the outcome of an investigation. Then he writes here what happened. Social media posts and early reports suggest that the incident occurred when the sergeant removed his holstered M18 from his duty belt using the Safariland QLS fork system. While the pistol remained holstered and untouched, it allegedly discharged on the table, striking the airman in the chest and fatally wounding him. This highly unusual event, where a firearm discharged from within a holster with no physical manipulation of the trigger, has raised serious concerns both within the military circles and among civilian firearm experts. Then it goes into fallout and immediate action. In response, the Air Force Global Strike Command, which oversees some of the nation's most sensitive strategic assets, issued a pause on the use of M18 pistols across the command. AFGSC personnel have been ordered to stop carrying or handling the weapon until a root cause analysis can be completed. The Air Force has not yet released an official incident report, and details surrounding the cause of the discharge, whether mechanical failure, holster incompatibility, or other factors, remain unconfirmed. Yeah, then he goes into social media skepticism. I don't have to get into all that, but man, for
Yeah.
one, what a tragic event. And I mean, as he says here, what a unusual event.
Well, I don't know if it's very much unusual. I was talking to you about when you said this. I said, well, the M18 is a variant of the what's called the P320, and the P320 has had some negligent discharges within law enforcement and the Army over the years. Now you can research them, do your due diligence, guys. Oh, autonomous, now look out there. There have been some, and even my buddy Eddie Ranji, he 5 6 years ago, we used his range, sometimes battle line trains at his range down there at outside of Tulsa and Kiefer. His SIG even did a negligent, I should say it was an accidental discharge. Why in the holster? That so I now SIG has gone to bat and SIG has gone through multiple investigations because the P320 has had negligent or accidental, not negligent. Negligent means the person did it. There's negligence by the handler.
Yeah, I mean, if
Um,
this was on the
yeah,
desk.
this was an accidental discharge, but it would still
Well,
be
wouldn't you say
negligent.
that's very
That's all. No,
unusual?
what I'm getting at is there's something wrong with the P320. There's something wrong with either the SIG trigger, whether it's too light, too sensitive, whether the drop safety in there is not functioning correctly, or some interior mechanism that's setting it off, or maybe it's not compatible with a Safariland holster. That might be it too. Regardless, though, that shouldn't happen. You don't hear that a lot with staccatos or Glocks or MMPs, or you don't. You're hearing it with SIG. And when there's smoke, there's fire, guys. We told last show. You were asking me about that SIG with Sean on the last show. I
Yeah,
said
yeah.
that's one of the reasons I don't like SIGs. I have a little 365 that I wear with some of my stuff, and that one has no issues. It's got a heavy trigger on it, and what I'm talking about for those that don't shoot, their triggers lightness and heavy means how hard is it to pull that
Sure,
trigger to
sure.
get to
No, I
go off.
remember when we had Christopher, I don't remember his name, but from the police, from the NYPD. Remember he talked
Yeah,
about how they were
yeah.
making the triggers so
Well,
heavy
that
that
was
there
too
were,
heavy. So they,
yeah.
yes, so the yeah, and there has to be a happy medium, and whatever's going on, the investigations have been done. SIG has not been come to fault, and SIG has defended that they meet all safety standards. But what are you going to say? No, we don't. I mean, come on.
But they've
what I
admitted to this happening.
well,
I believe they put out some statement. Yeah.
they don't have a choice. I mean, how are you not going to admit it,
Yeah.
especially when it's a military contract? So they're giving, they won the contracts. They won some of the contracts to replace the M4. They've won the contracts to replace the M249 to replace the SAW and the Mark 46. So they're winning all these government contracts, and a lot of times too, if companies sometimes the quality control goes out the window. I'm not saying SIG it is. I guess I haven't been to their manufacturing plant in years since they were very small before they've obviously now they're monstrous. Um, but there's something going wrong mechanically, or it doesn't work with certain holsters that's causing it to go off. And regardless, that's unsat. There needs to be something done about it. And all you can do now is just go through, and it's just painstaking. An outsider, my opinion, an outsider needs to go in, a third party, like you when you do an oversight committee, like in the government,
Hmm.
something that's completely opposite, completely autonomous of what you're investigating. They need to go in there and do multiple tests again. But that's the thing is before you get these contracts with the government, brother, whether it be Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, DOD, anybody, see, there is a huge screening process. So a lot of these tests should have been done. But that being said, it still comes down to this and the lowest bidder and or where we're going to make the most money or the costs. And I wasn't part of that. I'm just saying that's part of it. So your brain can go to those areas. Well, are they doing all the necessary quality control and tests to ensure that these things are safe under all circumstances, or are they just kind of pencil drilling some of them because SIG's giving us the best deal? I don't know. I don't know, but it seems kind of odd that this has happened. And when it happens, it's always a SIG and it's always a version. It's either the P320 or the version of it, which is what an M18 is. It's a version of a P320. I always say when there's smoke, there's fire, man. And I think there's some responsibility. It's got to be with SIG and it's got to be with SIG. And so yeah, that's terrible. And hate me if SIG guys hate me if you want. SIG, you can hate me if you want to, but
How can you?
it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
just the facts. I'm just the facts. I am
No.
giving my opinion based off the facts, but again, that's just my opinion and take it for what it's worth or don't. No big deal.
What you're saying makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I have a few thoughts on this. I'll tell you one thing I was thinking of. Every time there's a mass shooting event, right? Tragedy like that. Typically, right, the anti-gun people go out there and they say we should be able to sue the manufacturer, which I think is completely ridiculous. However, in
This,
an incident like
yeah,
this, I think they have
yeah.
every right to sue SIG.
They do SIG, or if they find in it's Safari Land, and then Safari Land better be doing their own investigations to make sure they're not culpable as well. And then also, I mean, there's multiple people you can sue the Air Force as well because it's their contract.
And
Regardless,
when we say you can sue, it's like I'm not a litigious guy
no,
who
you're
thinks
not at
go
all.
around suing
No.
everybody. But like in this case, man, if I lost a family member due to something that was no fault of their own, I
Hell
would say,
yeah.
yeah, they're responsible.
Well, that's accountability. There's got
Yeah.
to be accountability, and I don't care what part of the government you're in or how big your corporation is. There's got to be accountability, or the problem will continue and it will fester and it will proliferate, and it may even get bigger. And then if they get away with this, just like if you get
Yeah.
away with lying about leaving guys behind in Libya, it can proliferate into something bigger. It's the same thing. If you don't hammer it and you nip it in the bud now it's just going to get worse and worse and worse because I wish individuals, and I think an individual has integrity. I think when they get in groups, I think and money starts throwing around, money and figures start going around the room, integrity goes out the window.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, I
so
just, in every aspect, because I do the news on Salem
yeah, yeah,
occasionally. I was doing that this morning, and I just saw like, that group United Health, they're going to court over Medicare fraud, and when you hear about like healthcare companies using AI to make decisions about life and death, you go like, what the hell
yeah.
kind of a country that are we living in? And I think the people who work there probably rationalize it to themselves, but as a group, it's just okay, we got to make our shareholders money. And but man, I think it's such an immoral way of thinking. And I mean, this would be a whole nother tangent, but I think that is actually why when you see this guy who's running for mayor in New York City, a lot of young people feel they're being screwed right? And all their, everybody is out to get their money for everything, healthcare. And it's like, all right, why not elect someone who has a completely different idea of where to go? Now, I don't think that's the way to go, but I do understand how young people are feeling right now when you hear about stuff like this, man, when everything is about the bottom dollar. I do think people go, man, capitalism is kind of fucked up, and it doesn't have to be that way. I
No.
think there needs to be major changes, though. And then the other thing I was going to say, back to the actual issue at hand here, is that I was talking about how anti-gun people will talk about suing gun manufacturers when there's a mass shooting or something like that. But another thing is, whenever there is a tragedy, you'll hear people on the pro-gun side say, which I would normally agree with, well, I own plenty of guns and I've never seen a gun go off by itself. It's the person behind the gun. And like, here is one of these crazy events where it is the gun going off by
Well,
itself, man. And like, a lot of people, they like going to the range with their young kids and teaching them stuff. And it's like, man, this could be even worse. This could be a child getting shot like this in an environment where people are practicing 100% safety.
well, and when the initial P320 went off and there was a story on it. Actually, I think we even did a talk. It was a while ago. It was like 5 or 6. That was the first one. The blame, it was a law enforcement officer. The blame did go on the law enforcement. That was the first thing. It was your fault. But now that we've had multiple P320s
Yeah.
involuntarily go off, people are like, oh, wait a second. It's not, maybe there is something mechanically wrong with the gun. So, buddy, in this case, I don't think you'll see a lot of pro gun people, especially even like myself, are going to say, no, it was that person's fault. No, because you don't see guns just go off. They don't. They don't. It doesn't just go off. It's
Yeah.
sitting there. It's not.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, you
sitting.
got a whole room full of
Yeah, I got a
guns.
whole
They're not
room. They,
going off.
they don't just go and
Yeah.
it goes off like,
Yeah.
Johnny Dangerously or something. It doesn't happen. But when it's the same model and it's the same maker and it just happens to go off, come on, man. And if you're still that zealot, like it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault, you can't argue it in this case. There's nothing
Yeah.
to argue. If he was doing quick draws out of his holster and it went off, or he had a Serpa holster which has a little unlocking clip and he kept shoving it back in there and in and out, in and out, in and out. Okay, it's his fault. But it's just sitting there, or it's just in the holster. The thing's not supposed to. It shouldn't be going off. So, and again, this is the same brand, same make. I'm beating a dead horse. And if you're that much of a SIG zealot that you just cannot believe that there's a problem, then maybe you shouldn't be owning guns, guys. You're not. Come on, find your ethics. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm not saying SIG's doing, they're not doing it on purpose, but there's nothing intentional, but there is a problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, rest in peace, of course, to this
Yes,
individual. I mean, this is a horrible
definitely.
story.
Terrible.
But the great thing about doing this podcast truly is I mean, just being honest, we're not sponsored by SIG. So we're going to give you as accurate of a viewpoint as possible. And there's probably other shows who are either not going to cover this or they're going to cover it incorrectly because they don't want to piss off their
Well,
sponsors. But
maybe
yeah,
next week something will come out. Again, we're giving you the
I kind of
information.
doubt it, but
I
yeah.
doubt it, but we're giving you our opinion based off the information available to us right now. If something comes out next week and it says, yeah, the guy was fingering it and he was jacking around with it, we'll offer a full apology to
Yeah.
SIG because we have ethics on Battle Line podcast. But at this point in time, it doesn't look that way. It looks like there's a mechanical problem with that brand of pistol.
Yep, I fully agree with everything you said, and I also feel like what you said like legally keeps us okay.
I
Like
know.
we're not going to get sued,
There's
so
that's my
we're not.
insurance. That's my
Yeah,
insurance adjusting talk right there. There's my flood insurance adjusting talk right there. I can still talk corporate if I need to. I just don't like to.
thanks for checking out Battle Line Podcast. This is just a smaller clip from our latest episode, which you can check out in its entirety by clicking here. While you're watching, be sure to hit the subscribe button and thumbs up the video to show your support. Now, if you'd really like to help us out, click the thanks button below to make a donation. It goes directly to us in keeping Battle Line Podcast going for you.